Explanation of the book The Only Constant by Najwa Zebian, with a careful analysis of all the themes and in a reflective style that suits the spirit of the book. Introduction. Najwa Zebian, as usual, presents us with a work full of honest feelings and profound experiences. The Only Constant is an open invitation to embrace change as an inevitable force that we should not fear, but rather learn from and grow through. The book is a collection of short reflections and prose texts that speak directly to the heart, giving the reader space for reflection, consolation, and healing. First, the central idea. Change is the only constant. Almost every page revolves around this idea. If you fear change, you fear life itself. Najwa explains that people often cling to things that no longer serve them. People, ideas, places, identities, simply because they fear the unknown. However, she believes that change is the only thing that allows us to reshape ourselves and return to our true essence. Second, main chapters and reflections. The book is not divided into traditional chapters, but rather into free-flowing sections resembling journals or reflections. However, they can be summarized within major themes. 1. Change and personal transformation. Key messages. Don't be afraid of change. It's not a loss, but a discovery. Every time you go through a painful change, you get closer to your true self. Don't expect the old version of you to fit every stage of your life. Analysis. Najwa likens the human self to an ever-flowing river that cannot remain constant. Those who cling to their old self are like those who confine themselves to a narrow mold when life calls for expansion. 2. Identity and self-rediscovery. Messages. Your identity is not what people say about you, but what you feel inside. You have the right to redefine yourself every time you go through a moving experience. Not all the identities we inherit fit our souls. Analysis. Najwa frees us from the idea that we have to please everyone or fit society's mold. In some passages, the lyrics cry out, "Be yourself even if it means being misunderstood." 3. Relationships and the boundaries of love. Messages. Don't trade your dignity for love. Someone who truly loves you won't make you doubt your worth. Leave places that turn you off, even if you once loved them. Analysis. Najwa often talks about harmful relationships, not necessarily violent ones, but ones that emotionally drain or restrict you. She emphasizes that leaving a relationship that doesn't represent you is an expression of self-love, not a betrayal of the other. 4. Healing from wounds. Messages. Healing doesn't mean returning to the way you were, but rather becoming a new person, free of the pain of the past. Don't rush healing, for every heart has its own pace. Don't hide your wounds, for they may be evidence of your strength, not your weakness. Analysis. Najwa believes that pain has wisdom, and that every wound we carry is part of the map that brought us to where we are. Therefore, she urges the reader to come to terms with their pain, not bury it. 5. Inner peace. Messages. Don't seek peace outside of yourself. Build it within. Peace is not the absence of pain, but balance in the midst of a storm. The closer you get to your truth, the closer you will come to peace. Analysis. Najwa invites us to build a deep spiritual relationship with ourselves, a relationship that enables us to remain steadfast amidst the turmoil of the world. She believes that those who reconcile with themselves will not be harmed by external storms. Book style. Poetic and emotional. Each stanza feels like a free verse poem or a prose thought. You're direct and honest. It feels as if Najwa is writing just for you, addressing your own pain. Deep and contemplative. Suitable for slow, thoughtful reading, not skimming. Notable quotes. The only constant in your life is you, so take care of you. You don't have to stay in a version of life that no longer fits you. Let go of the guilt. Growth should never be punished. Profound messages in the book. 1. Change is not loss, it's liberation. Change frees you from what no longer serves you. 2. Self above all else. No one is worth putting yourself on the sidelines for. 3. Leaving is healing. Leaving isn't always a sign of weakness. Sometimes it's a sign of tremendous courage. 4. everything is temporary, except change. Nothing lasts forever, neither pain nor joy, but change is always ongoing. Who is this book for? For those who have gone through a toxic relationship or a breakup. For those who feel lost or are searching for meaning. For those who need comfort and a calming voice telling them that everything will be okay. Conclusion. The only constant is a spiritual companion, reminding you on every page that you are not alone and that you are much stronger than you think. It's a book that shouldn't be read once, but rather reopened every time you change to find a new version of yourself. Although Najwa Zebian's book, The Only Constant, doesn't contain traditional stories in the form of a novel, it is filled with realistic, semi-narrative life scenes narrated by Najwa in a reflective style. These stories are inspired by her personal experiences or the experiences of the people around her. Here are some of the most poignant scenes featured or alluded to in the book. 1. A house that is no longer a home. Message. Sometimes the place that once protected us becomes a source of pain. Narration. Najwa recounts the feeling of returning to a place she once called home, only to discover that it no longer made her feel safe. She describes how her perception of the place changed and how the memories there became heavy. Despite this, she no longer hated that place. Instead, she was grateful for it because it was part of her journey. Symbolism. This story symbolizes relationships or identities we once loved but that no longer resemble us, and we must leave them in order to grow. 2. When she apologized to herself, message. Sometimes we need to apologize to ourselves for enduring what we don't deserve. Narration. Najwa recounts a pivotal moment when she decided to talk to herself in the mirror and say, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I put you through all this, just to make you feel like you were enough." Analysis. This scene represents a moment of self-reconciliation after an abusive relationship or a phase of denial, and it's one of the most powerful and emotional moments in the book. 3. The stolen identity. Message. Don't let others redefine who you are. Narration. It tells of a period when she felt she had become a distorted version of what others wanted, not what she wanted. She describes how she began to act, think, and speak as expected, not as she truly felt. Climax. The moment she realized she was betraying herself every time she kept quiet about her true self. 4. The goodbye that never happened. Message. Some endings don't require words, but rather an inner decision. Narration. Najwa talks about a person who left her life without saying goodbye, but later realized that the true goodbye wasn't with words, but with a moment of realization that the relationship ended long ago, and that continuing it was just a habit. Deep message. Sometimes silent abandonment is the truest goodbye. 5. Conversation with fear. Message. Don't run away from fear. Face it and talk to it. Narration. She imagines a meditative scene in which she imagines herself sitting across from fear at a table, talking to it and asking it, "Why do you always show up when I decide to choose me?" Fear responds, "Because every time you get close to your freedom, I lose my power." Symbolic analysis. A profound representation of the idea that fear doesn't go away, but we can understand it and disarm it by confronting it. 6. The story of the one who isn't allowed to be angry. Message. Women, or people in general, are often told to suppress their anger to remain likable. Narration. Najwa recounts how she used to suppress her anger for fear of being labeled aggressive or exaggerating. But in a moment of awareness, she decided to give herself the right to be angry, to revolt, to speak out. Power. Anger is not a flaw, it's sometimes the voice of self-justice.